What's going on, guys, and welcome to the final episode of my top 40 games of all time. This is the games adjuster Ethan Rodriguez, and this time we are talking the top 10 through 1. Finally made it. These are the creme de la creme, the best of the best, in my humble opinion. And so we're going to jump right into it. If you haven't already, check out 40 through 31, 30 through 21, and 20 through 11 to catch up and be prepared for the shock and the awe of the final top 10. So glad you guys stuck around. If you have, I really appreciate it. And let's get to it. So number 10, I do not own. And there's actually, spoiler, there are 3 games in my top 10 that I do not own, but they are readily available to me, and that's why they're still here. I subscribe to the thought that if I have a close friend or family member that has a game, and it's an expensive game maybe, then I do not feel compelled to own it, even though its merits warrant it being in my top 10. So that's why they are still my favorite games, and so I'm going to talk about them now. So number 10 is called Mare Nostrum Empires, and that is by Academy Games. So Mare Nostrum Empires is a re-implementation of, I think, the original Mare Nostrum. I'm not sure when that came out, but it's a ancient Mediterranean civilization combat resource trading game. It's a very unique game. You've got the Greeks against the Romans, against the Carthaginians, against Hannibal and his tribe of people, the Persians, and basically you're in Mediterranean seas, in that Greco-Roman Italian area, basically, and you are competing against each other. And it's a unique game in that it's got 4 different ways that you can win. So you can win by building the pyramid. The pyramids cost you a certain amount of coins or different unique resources that the lands produce. You can win kind of a military victory by controlling a certain amount of these legendary or capital cities. You can win also by just having a certain amount of different heroes and or like wonders of the world in your area. And then the final way to win is if you are at the top of the military, the trading, and the building track. If you are ever the leader in all 3 tracks, then you instantly win as well. So there's 4 ways to win, and every way is viable. You have to consider, what are your opponents doing? Like every game, I mentioned that a lot. But what are they going for? If I see Mike over here is building this huge army and he's trying to take over the capital cities, well, I need to be prepared to defend myself. If I see Sally over here, who is in charge of trade, gathering a lot of coins every turn, is she about to buy the pyramid? Or if she's building a lot of land that she can buy the pyramid outright, or is she building a lot of land and building caravans and markets in these areas that they can produce a number of unique resources that are required to buy the pyramid that way? Maybe they're just getting these different heroes and wonders, and these heroes and wonders not only help you win the game by just having them, but they add to the military strength you might have by giving you different results as far as your hits, or adding die or increasing die results, perhaps giving you defense die. You've got them even increasing the values on those 3 different tracks. So some might increase all the tracks by 1, or just a couple of them by 2, or maybe just 1 by 3. There's so many different options, and it's so interactive because every leader in those tracks dictates the turn order for their particular round. So if you are the leader in military, when it comes to move and attacking, you can choose who you want to go first. If you are in a non-binding agreement with, let's say, you're Greece and you're with the Romans, hey, I want to attack you, you don't attack me, looks like the Carthaginians are making a move, maybe we can push them back by attacking them. So you might let the Romans go first as the Greece, and you might have the Romans go over there and take them out. Meanwhile, you go over here and try to attack the Persians or the Egyptians, or if you're trading, let's say, as the leader in trade, you can choose, am I going to trade 5 resources or 4 or 3 or none? There's so many different choices and so much power that each player has at different points in the game. And the fact that there are so many different ways to win, it's everyone's on the edge of their seat all the time. You're not really sure who's winning, and you can look like you're going to win one way, meanwhile try to sneak and win on the tracks, and you're eyeballing this one particular person that's going to push you over the edge. It's just awesome. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. They have like a nice huge neoprene mat for it too. You don't need that, but it's awesome. It's out there. There's several expansions, some with like biblical heroes like Joseph and those folks, Moses. Others with like this Atlantean faction. You've got the Odyssey and Homer's Odyssey, which is like Odysseus. All those people. There's just tons of content for it. They give you a bunch of heroes. The Atlanteans are a whole nother faction. It's just awesome. So Mare Nostrum Empires, I never hear anybody talking about it. I don't understand why. It was one of the first games that I know of, at least, to really give me that different ways to win feeling, and it does it very well. So if that, again, sounds interesting to you, check it out. That's Mare Nostrum Empires by Academy Games. That's my number 10. Number 9, I do have, and number 9 is a simple but mighty good game, and that is Seven Wonders Duel. So Seven Wonders Duel is another one of the first games I purchased in my friendly local game store. I bought it right off the bat with the Pantheon expansion, and I since have acquired the Agora expansion, which is the newest one. Now I am concerned a little bit that they're going to put a Seven Wonders Duel second edition out, kind of like they did with the first Seven Wonders, which would be cool for the folks that don't have it. I've already put all my money into this one, and unless they change the mechanism, I feel like it's fine. But my cards are starting to show a little wear, but that's also okay because it means I've been playing it. And so Seven Wonders Duel also has multiple ways to win, and you'll see that as a theme of things that I like in games. And so one of the ways you can win is by drafting these cards here, building your resources, and just getting the most points by the end of 3 ages. That's most common. The way to win is just having more points than your opponent, and you'll build these different pyramid shapes per age, and that will change the options available to you each round, because you can only choose from the face up cards available until you've taken off the card in front of them, flip those over, and now those become available. And so you're having to look at, what am I making available potentially to my opponent? What cards are possibly there that I don't know yet? And is it worth taking this, let's say, card that's going to produce paper for me now, and revealing that card and that being a military and helping my opponent maybe get a military victory? And that's one of the other ways you can win, is you can win with the points, or if you get your military all the way across to the opponent's side, you can win a straight military victory and end the game immediately. Or if you get a number of different science symbols, you can win the game that way just by having a science victory. I think it's like 6 or 7 unique science symbols. And even on the science symbols too, you have to watch, because if you double up on the same symbol, you get these science tokens that will give you other game-breaking powers. And so it's a very interesting game. It's a push and pull in the military. You can see someone going towards you, so you might have to change your strategy, draft some military cards just to push them back so they're not on the threshold of beating you in one unlucky flip of a card. That's the base game. If you throw in the Pantheon expansion, you now have this Pantheon board that adds different gods that you can make offerings to and acquire their skills and their powers. Some of them just give you straight points. Others will give you a ton of money. Others will allow you to destroy cards in someone's area. On top of that, even, you've got the Wonders. The Wonders will give you some extra military benefits maybe, or help you to produce the resources you need to build the different cards as you go throughout the ages, and even give you additional turns. And so you can start to break the cycle as far as, well, if I take this card, they're going to flip that one, I'm going to be stuck with these. You can break that by using the Wonders, getting duplicate turns. And that was what was so great about the Pantheon expansion too. A lot of times you kind of get stuck in that rut, and although there are several Wonders that give you extra turns, you might get stuck with some that don't. And so it kind of plays itself out in the sense that if you kind of get stuck taking whatever your opponent leaves you because of the way the cards are laid out in the turn order. Well, in Pantheon, instead of having to always take a card to either get money, put it in your tableau or discard it or for the money or build a wonder, you could now take a card or not take a card at all, and you can just pay money to get these Pantheon cards. And so that's another way that you can break the cycle, make it less predictable, and make it more interesting in what you are doing and what your opponent needs to look out for. And then you throw in the Agora expansion, which I will say doesn't seem to be as good as the first expansion in my opinion. It's definitely not an essential buy. I think the first one is, but it's still cool. It adds these political cards basically, where there's now like an area majority thing that you're going for, and that could be another way to try to win the game too. So that is cool that it adds another way to get more cards, get more points, and maybe get another victory. So overall, thoroughly enjoy Seven Wonders Duel. It is dual, meaning it's a 2-player only game, but it's one of the best, if not the best, 2-player, card drafting civilization, tiny civilization experience in a box that you can get. And I thoroughly enjoy it. So that's Seven Wonders Duel. That is by Repos Production, my number 9. All right, number 8 is a very small game, and this is my trick-taking, not really ladder climbing, really, game. So it is ladder climbing, not trick-taking, kind of similar though, and that is Tichu. And so Tichu has been around for a while, and it's kind of a classic game. This says 1998 on the box, and probably before that. This is Rio Grande Games, the publisher for this box. And Tichu is a 56 card deck. So you've got your standard poker cards and 4 extra unique cards: the Hound, it's like a bird, a dragon, and a phoenix. And what you're doing basically is you and a partner, so it's a partner's game where you sit across the table from your partner, and I've mostly played 4 players, but you can play A with multiple decks. But if you're playing 4-player, you have a partner, your opponents have partners, and you are dealt a hand of cards. So you'll start being dealt a certain amount of cards to begin the game, and you'll pause before you deal the rest of the cards out to see if you want to call Grand Tichu. And if you do call Grand Tichu, you will get a certain amount of points if you and your partner empty your hands before the other team. If you don't, then you will lose those points and possibly go negative. And most games are played to like 1,000 points. So you'll make a decision then if you want to do that, if you think your hand is very strong. If not, you can pass and decline to say anything, and you'll divvy out the rest of the cards. And then again, you are presented with the option to say Tichu if you think you and your partner can go out first. And so you'll make those proclamations if you're going to, and then you will start playing these hands. And so you will play, maybe a single card, and you'll keep playing around till the highest card wins, in which case that person takes those cards. And then they will lead off the next hand. They could play 2 pairs or 3 pairs or consecutive pairs. They could play classic poker hands like a full house kind of thing, or 4 of a kind, or 4 of a kind is like a bomb. There's tons of different hands you can play, and a full run of cards, like 6 or 7, 8, 9, 10 even maybe cards in a row that can only be beat by someone who plays the same amount of cards but a higher set. So you kind of have to read your opponents based on what they're playing and the special powers that you may have or they may have, because you've got the dragon, which is like unbeatable, but it's worth 25 points to the person who wins it. I think it is 25. And then you've got like the phoenix, which is basically like a wild, and it's a half a point above everybody else, but it's worth negative points. You've got the hound, which lets you, if you lead the trick with the hound, your partner can go first and they can lead a trick. You've got the 1 card, which basically lets you make a wish. It counts as a 1 if you play it normally, but then you can make a wish for a player to play a certain card that you need them to play, because maybe having them play that now will allow you to go out by playing the rest of the tricks, knowing that you have pairs or trips or quads of cards that they cannot match, and you are going to be able to go out. So it's a very interesting, tense experience, because you have to read your partner. You have to know, what do they have and what does my opponent have, and is this the right time to play this let's say set of 3 cards? Or do they, if I have a set of 3 jacks, what are the chances they've got a set of 3 kings or queens or aces? If I'm playing a single card high, does anybody have does my partner have the dragon? If I play the ace, could anybody beat me? What if they have the phoenix? I don't have it. Maybe my partner has both. There's just so much double think and having to have that mind meld with your partner. And I love it. It's just great. Tichu is a game that, if you have a friend or family member that's into poker and just simple heart, spades, card games like that, you have to show them this, because it's going to take them back to those games, and it's going to be easy for them to catch on to, but they're going to thoroughly enjoy how intense it is and that partnership that you build. So I love it. That's Tichu, my number 8 by Rio Grande Games. Definitely check it out. All right, so number 7 is a huge game here, and I think that's right. So yeah, 7, and that is going to be, I'm sorry, no it's not. This is not number 7. Number 7 I don't have. It's another game I don't have, and that is Blood Rage by Come or Simon Limited. And so Blood Rage is a Eric Lang design game, and it is this Viking themed Euro-y drafting with dudes on a map smashing hybrid of a game. And it is a game where you'll start with a faction, and everybody's faction starts with the same, no powers, just basic attributes that they'll have, strength and costs, things like that you'll need to spend rage for. It's got this basically action allowance system, which is always something I love. And after that, you'll be drafting cards, and there's 3 ages. So each age, you'll be drafting cards. The cards get more powerful with each age, and these cards will do a variety of things. Some of them will give you quests that will give you points at the end of the round if you accomplish specific requirements. Others will just give you combat strength for whenever you need to engage in combat against other factions. Still other cards will upgrade the different units you have. So you'll have leader upgrades, clan upgrades, you'll have warrior and ship upgrades, or even monster upgrades, where you can basically hire these mercenary type units to kind of fight for your team, a troll maybe, or a dwarf chieftain. There's tons of them. And so every round you'll be drafting those cards, discarding a certain amount at the end of the round, and then you'll begin taking actions. And what you're trying to do is get the most points by either A, completing a lot of quests that give you points, or B, maybe trying to take, when you pillage these different areas on the board, and they're basically all adjacent to each other on the ring on the outside, and then there's Yggdrasil in the middle that all the outside territories are adjacent to. So the outside territories will give you either straight points or different attribute boosts as far as horns and your rage allowance every round, or even your axes, how many points you get for fighting people when you successfully pillage them. But whenever you pillage, you do invite adjacent units the opportunity to jump in and maybe prevent you from pillaging successfully, or possibly dying a glorious death and going to Valhalla, where they might have some quest specific goals in mind to hopefully lose all the fights and then go to Valhalla and be able to get points that way. And so there's so many things you have to look for as far as how you want to win the game. And I just love it. There's this, when you're fighting, you're playing a card face down, and you can deterministically count your unit's strength. So I might have a leader that's 3 points. I've got a warrior upgrader that makes my 2 warriors worth 3 points. That's 6 points. They only have 1 unit. I'm going to be fine. For play a card, let's say it's 2 points. Well, they play a card that gives them 5 strength on this 1 card, plus their 1 unit, that's 6, and they make your warriors not count for anything. So now you've lost 6 to 5, just kind of your leader and your 2-point card, and your warriors didn't count for anything, and then now you're on Valhalla. And you didn't pillage, you didn't get what you wanted, and now they have the opportunity maybe to pillage without any opposition from adjacent territories, because they've already been cleared out or they lost in the fight too. So it's such a dynamic game, and how things work out, and you have to read the allowances too. Are they going to be able to attack me if I go here? Maybe I should go here first and try to pillage that before anybody gets on the board. what special powers do the monsters have? Did they draft those monsters? I know even when you're drafting, I really want this card, but I also really want this card. Should I take this one now, or maybe I'll take this one, I'll pass it along. Hopefully it'll come back around to me and you get your hand, you're like, no, it's gone. So it's just an awesome game. It's an awesome hybrid between those zero drafting mechanisms as well as the combat dudes on a map. There's no dice, it's just card fighting. And it just kind of eliminates sometimes a devastating dice roll and luck of that and replaces it with a more intriguing card battle system. And yeah, I just love Flood Rage. I don't own it. It's another one my brother-in-law has. Same thing though, he's already got the Mystics and Gods of Asgard expansions and everything, and Broken Token Insert. I mean, there's no point for me to have it. I would love to have it in my collection. It's just, I play it over there. I just don't see the point in having the same game. So that's why I don't have it. But if I had my druthers and it was not readily available, it would certainly be in my collection. And that is my number 7, Blood Rage by Come On. So now here's the game I was just about to grab earlier. I apologize for the confusion. And that is Cthulhu Wars. This is the only exception to that rule I just laid out, where my brother-in-law has it, but I also have it. And Cthulhu Wars is a Peterson game, Sandy Peterson game. Huge dudes on a map game. The ultimate dudes on a map, because these dudes, actual size, are this big. And these represent maybe, this is even the biggest one. There are bigger units than this one. This is an expensive game, so I take this recommendation with a grain of salt. I'll recommend you do, because it may not be in your budget depending on what you're willing to spend for a bunch of plastic and a fun time. But for me, it was something I had to have in my own collection. Cthulhu Wars is my third favorite ultimate dudes on a map area control game. So in Cthulhu Wars, you are given a faction. The base game, this box here, has 4 factions. You got the Yellow Sign, the Black Goat, the Crawling Chaos, and Cthulhu himself. And so in the game, you will start with your faction acolytes, cultists, on the board in your certain starting area with 1 gate. And from there, you will spend power, which is an action point allowance system very similar to Blood Rage, to do your different actions by moving units, summoning new monsters out of the gates that you control, building new gates with your acolytes, and ultimately trying to get the most doom points. And so the game can end in one of 2 ways. If a player gets to 30 doom points, that will end the game. But also you can have an instant death if the Ritual of Annihilation is performed X amount of times, depending on the number of players. And so this is a game where having the most points doesn't guarantee you the win, because another condition to victory is having all 6 of your spell books. So in the game, let's say the Black Goat faction, which is the red pieces, when you are trying to get your spell books, you have different conditions you need to meet. One of them is you may need to have 4 units in 4 different areas. You may need to then have units in 8 different areas. If you're the Yellow Sign, you may need to hire or summon your Great Old Ones, the King in Yellow and Hastur. Or even if you're Cthulhu's faction, you may need to summon Cthulhu, or you might get a spell book the very first Doom phase. Every single faction has asymmetric abilities and asymmetric ways to get their spell books, ongoing abilities that they are very unique to their faction. Their units have different combat strength. There's just a ton of different content. And that's just the 4 factions I have in here. There are now 5 more factions. There are tons of independent Great Old Ones, very similar to like Blood Rage, where I talked about the mercenary type monsters you can bring in. You have those as well. You have independent Great Old Ones and neutral monsters that you can also recruit to join your army and help you to accomplish your goal by getting the most points and having all 6 of your spell books. And so this is just one of those games, almost, I don't want to say a lifestyle game because it's not tournaments and things like that, but it's a game that if you're going to get it and go all in, you're gonna have to invest some money, but it's well worth it if you got the money laying around, because there's so much content, so many different maps. The maps have different rules. There's a library with this evil librarian that can go around and hurt the players. There's the Dreamlands map, the Shoggoth map or Yogg-Sothoth map, Primeval Earth map, the regular Earth map. The boards flip over to accommodate for different player sizes. So if you're playing a 2-player game, you'll have it on one side, or 3, 4, 5, you'll flip different sides of the board. We've played 8-player games of this, and it's awesome. There's just plastic all over the place. I'll show a picture up here maybe. There's, it's a dice chucker. You're trying to get 6s, which are kills, 4s and 5s are pains. I mean, this is like, I don't know. I mean, it's just dudes on a map, like almost like a party type atmosphere of a game, because it's just so outrageous and so much plastic again on the table. It's just awesome. So Cthulhu Wars is, again, kind of an expensive game. And if you don't like dudes on a map, you may not like it, because it can be a dice chucker, can be kind of lucky. But it's almost an experience you have to have, how grandiose it is. It's just awesome. It's just one game that you can learn the factions, and that's how you get better, is knowing what they do, how they interact with the faction that you have, and what your faction strengths are. So it rewards repeat plays, and you're going to want those repeat plays. As much money as you spend for this, you're going to want to play it multiple times. So that's my number 6. I thoroughly enjoy Cthulhu Wars by Peterson Games. Definitely something you should check out if you've got the money and the strength, because it's a big box. Okay, number 5. Here we go. Top 5 now. So number 5 is a big box as well, and that is Scythe by Stonemaier Games. So Scythe, this is the legendary box here. Comes with all the expansions. The only expansion I don't have is the modular map, which it's smaller than the regular map flipped over with the expansion board or extension board. And I don't see why I want to go to a smaller map. So I didn't get that one. But beyond that, and the metal minis, I don't have those either. I have everything else. The Encounters pack, the Rise of Fenris expansion, the Wind Gambit, the Invaders from Afar, the base game. I've got it all, and I love this game. So inside, you are engine building. It's kind of a Euro-y Amerithrash-y hybrid, but not even a hybrid, more of like a splash of Amerithrash, and that you can combat each other, but like 90% Euro. So it can kind of throw you off when you see these giant mechs and things like that on the side. I don't know if I can show you here, but you're primarily doing Euro, and it's not really worth it to fight if you are definitely on the threshold of going down in popularity. So in this game, you have an action pawn and you have an action board. And the action boards are all the same on the bottom as far as the secondary abilities that they offer, but the tops vary slightly and in different arrangements. And so on your turn, except for one faction, you will take your pawn from one action you selected previously and move it to a new action, not taking the same action twice. And the actions are pretty simple. You can move your units. You can produce resources or more workers depending on where your workers are on the board and the different territories that they occupy. You can gain power, basically, which is like combat strength. You can gain popularity. And then once you've done all those things, you can, if you have the resources, pay to upgrade your engine. So on the first section, you can pay oil to do an upgrade and basically take a cube from the top. And this has got one of those boards where as you reveal things from the top section of your board, you are discounting things on the bottom section of your board, which is an awesome mechanism. You can upgrade by taking those cubes again, and now you're producing gives you 3 areas instead of 2 areas. You can build more mechs, and at the beginning of the game, you're kind of landlocked into this small area, except for a couple of factions. But then once you build your mech, you'll get different abilities to be able to cross rivers and really start spreading out into the territory. You can enlist and basically take these little discs off your board, get a one-time bonus now, and then every time someone else does the action at the bottom that matches that enlist token, you'll get a benefit. And then you can just build things. You can build different, a mine to make it more accessible to other areas on the board. You can build a mill, which will produce every time you do a produce action at the different territory that you put it in. And so you're just thinking about how can you most efficiently take your actions, and you only get like 17 to 20 actions, I think, per game. If you're playing just the base game rules, and there's in the expansions tons of different in-game conditions and Rise of Fenris, and no spoilers, but there's basically other ways you can change the achievements you go for and the power-ups that your units get. There's just a ton of stuff, and it's so awesome. It's an awesome game to look at. It's an awesome game to play. Most money wins, and you get money at the end basically for all the money you gain during the game. The level of popularity you have, which is one of the ways you can get a star, and you're trying to go for these stars, by the way, too. Completing an objective gets you a star. Getting all the way up the popularity track, all the way up the power track, those give you stars. Getting all your workers out, getting all your mechs out, getting all your upgrades, getting all your enlist tokens, all these different things that you're working on give you these stars. And whoever gets to 6 stars first ends the game, but you may not win because your end game is the money you have, and then where you are in this popularity track, it's multiplied, gives you a multiplier on all the territories you control that have your units in them, all the resources you have at a 2-to-1 rate, and then all of the stars that you have as well. So you want to get your stars out, but you also need to know when the game is coming to an end. Even if you don't have the most stars, you can still win if you spread out at the end, putting your workers into areas that are not unoccupied, bringing your mechs along to make sure they control them, building your buildings strategically to maximize on the building bonuses, which will be random every game, but also make sure that you're controlling an area far off that no one else can take and using your workers elsewhere. It's just awesome. Scythe is a great engine building. I guess that's it. It's just an engine building resource management game, and I really, really enjoy it. So this is my favorite Stonemaier game. I've played some of the other ones. I like Viticulture. It's probably like an 8 for me. It's okay. It's just a little boring of a theme. I'm not a big wine drinker. You don't need to drink wine to like it, but it's okay. I like Wingspan a lot, but it's not in my top 40. Scythe, I love. So if you are looking for a Stonemaier game to try out, highly, highly recommend Scythe. That is my number 5. Okay, number 4 is a polarizing game because of the look, but I don't care. And that is Food Chain Magnate. So Food Chain Magnate has no back of the box to show you, has very little artwork to show you or to brag about. I do like this 50s old school motif, but this is not a looker of a game like the previous games I've showed you on this list. But I still love it. And last top 10, I misspoke. I said that 1830 was my favorite economic game. This is my real favorite economic game, if you want to consider it that. So basically, Food Chain Magnate is a no-luck game in that the only luck that there is turn order. After that, it's completely player-controlled economy and actions that you're doing and how you make your money or win the game. So what you'll be doing every round is building basically a organizational structure. And this I kind of almost have to show you one of these boards if I can. I'm not going to get it out. But anyways, you start with you are the CEO of your own food chain company. And it's a 2 to 5 player game to coming out of the box, I believe. And you start your company with just you as CEO, and you can have 3 people underneath you. After that, you decide who you want to hire. There are a ton of different workers available, and they come in this menu that you have in the game that tells you the organizational structure that they follow. So you might have a kitchen trainee that can turn into a burger chef or a pizza chef and turn into a pizza cook later on, or vice versa, and produce more and more burgers and pizza. You have management trainees that can become greater managers, or you have waitresses, and you have marketing supervisors, and you have drink specialists. There's a whole slew of different occupations that you can have in your organization. But the better they are, you start having to pay for their salaries. And so it's like $5 a salary, which can be at the very beginning of the game very expensive. And if you don't have the money, you lose them. So you have to look at the board state and where these customers that are in the game, these abstract ideas here, are going to be shopping to get their food, because they are only going to pay the lowest amount they possibly can based on the price that you set for your goods, as well as the distance they are away from you. And so there's pre-printed houses on the board. Again, the game is not a looker by any means. It's minimalist boards, basically grids that are used to put houses on and have roads on them. And you can place more houses on them and gardens and things like that to multiply the amount of money you make. But it's just functional, and that's all it is. Splatter games, their whole idea is, what's the point of playing a game if you can't lose on the first turn? Which, again, I know is polarizing. Some people say, like, that's not fun. I don't want to lose the first turn. I don't want to play 2 hours in a game I'm going to lose, and I already know I lost 15 minutes in, which I'm not going to lie. It can happen. I don't want to sugarcoat it. If you play wrong, you can lose the first turn, and you will have a miserable experience. And so I totally understand why it's so polarizing. But I am on the other end of it. I like the challenge of having my wits about me, making sure that I'm keeping an eye on what people are doing, really thinking about the long-term ramifications of this choice I'm making on turn 1. Because if I choose the wrong path and I miss out on some of these special bonuses, and that's one of the key components of the game, is there are achievements that you will get that give you more power, or special power. So the first time you produce food and have to throw it away because you can't store anything round around, you will get a refrigerator. And now you can store a certain amount of resources from round to round. You don't have to produce them fresh every time. There are bonuses when you market, you have infinite marketing. And as soon as you market, you have to get rid of that employee permanently, but their marketing stays on the board for the rest of the game. And it's just these powers that you have to look at, and you have to see, okay, when my opponent's going to get them. If they get them, you only have until the end of that round to get them too. Otherwise, they are locked, and you have no access to them. Very similar to another game I mentioned earlier on my list. And so you have to just consider that. And yeah, it is a tough game. Yes, you can lose on the first turn. But when you don't lose and you win, it is amazing because you have outplayed your opponent. You have run a better business. You have, conquered the simulation of real life, and as best you can simulate, a food chain magnate business in a board game. And it does a great job. I love it. It's 100% dice free is what they talk about here on the box. It's absolutely right. There is, very little to no luck other than turn order. There's no dice. It's just you, your opponents, and the path you choose, and who can be the most shrewd businessman or woman at the table. And again, I know it's divisive. I know it's polarizing, but I absolutely love it. That's why it is my number 4. That is Food Chain Magnate by Splatter Spiele. Okay. Or Splatter Spellen, excuse me. Number 3 is a brand new game and definitely influenced by Kickstarter, but that's the way these things go. It's when I say top 40 games of all time, last episode I mentioned is my favorite, of course. It's also a snapshot in time. As of 2021, May 4th, today, this is my order. Tomorrow they might change, but as of now, my number 3 is the big Kickstarter production, Company of Heroes. So Company of Heroes is the second Kickstarter I ever backed, way back in 2019, right after Smartphone Inc. came out. This one came on Kickstarter. I'd never played the video game, but I had wanted a World War II or World War X game to play. I really like the theme of games. I've played Axis and Allies. I've played War Room since, which is like a Larry Davis or David, or Larry Davis, I think it is. I forget his name, but he's a designer of Axis and Allies. Did a War Room, bigger, better version of it, and I love those experiences. But they're very long. I also love the strategic level planning of those games because there's kind of a macro look at World War II. But I also really like the tactical level, skirmish level, um, viewpoints from those games. But not, I can't get my wife or most of my group to play a typical hex encounter chits like Combat Commander Europe or something like that. Although I am very interested in those, and if you're in the area, hit me up. But this was perfect. It was a heavier, minis game, skirmish, tactical level, a la Memoir 44, Tides of Iron, Bolt Action, those games, which I have dabbled in a little bit. But I was really sold on the amazing production. And if you haven't seen it already, check out my review for this. The very first video I did, quality's not as good, audio's not as good, but your viewership would be appreciated. And I think I gave some good thoughts on the game. So don't want to ramble too much about it here, but I just love this game. You have this beautifully produced game, Kickstarter, everything. I have the whole World Domination all in bundle. It comes with amazing produced miniatures with different tanks and infantry and tank busters, and you've got like cargo trucks like in one of the Oberkommando West expansions. You've got a whole slew of elite commander tanks that you can call in, Panzers and King Tigers, and there's just Sherman tanks. I mean, there's all of them. They're all engraved on the bottom except for the elephant. I don't know why that one's not. Backrow Games got some explaining to do. But beyond that, they're all beautifully produced. You've got sandbags and buildings and a chapel, and it just looks awesome on the table. And then the gameplay is very interesting. It's deterministic combat, except for things that are kind of risky, like shooting anti-armor or armor-piercing weapons at infantry may not work so well, so the infantry gets a defense roll. On the flip side, shooting infantry damage at a light vehicle may not work so well, so light vehicles get to roll. But if you go anti-infantry against infantry, they have no defense other than maybe having cover behind sandbags or being in a building or something like that. So everything is very thematic. It makes sense. If you're rolling for high explosive damage, yeah, it may not guarantee to hit. You might misfire. You'll have to re-roll that. You have to consider your line of sight with certain units that have front-facing weapons, like a machine gun team. If they deploy facing a certain direction, they only have those limited targets and would have to redeploy to fire at an opponent that's maybe flanking them from the side or coming from behind them. There's just so much to it. It's so thematic again in the mechanisms and the way that things work, but it's so streamlined too, and everything makes sense. And that also ties into the theme. They did a really great job of bringing the video game to life. I did read about the video game later, and I feel like this does a great job of that. The way that you increase your army or improve your army too, and that you can get experience to upgrade units you already have. You can spend munitions to upgrade units you have. You can spend fuel and manpower to buy new units. You can upgrade your building boards to have access to even better units, the huge tanks, the most powerful units you have. And the game kind of snowballs into now you've got these huge units on the board that can, maybe go a little slower as far as tanks, but once they get up to the fight, they're bringing devastating power. And there's tons of maps in the game. They did a good job with really doing the mission booklet. And Backrow Games, I did play their first game, Mech Command RTS, and I really did like Mech Command. It was this really cool tactical level mechs with these really neat magnetized LED lights that basically give you line of sight. And it was a real-time game, and this has some real-time elements too, but it's more turn-based. I really liked it, but it just wasn't supported well. The rulebook was a little bit messy. They had a co-op expansion that never got a rulebook in it. It came with the box, but you had to look up the rules online, and I don't think they ever produced an actual rulebook for it. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen here. They've talked about building a rule book and mission book for the world map expansion that I got that has a bunch of different tiles for it so you can change the layout. I'm really hoping they stick with that. But even if they don't at this point, this is just a solid package with great content, great gameplay, great variety in the different factions you play, the elite commanders you have, the different maps you play, the different modes of play. It's just awesome. So if you are a World War II fan, this is one you need to check out. If you like tactical level combat, miniatures type game, this is not a miniature in the traditional sense like a Warhammer, X-Wing, things like that. There's no movement template. It's just kind of moving on hexes, but it's very, very fun. And so that is my number 3, Company of Heroes by Bad Crow Games. This is from the all-in World Domination Kickstarter bundle. Okay, the top 2. So number 2 is a very different game than that one. My favorite pick up and deliver game, and that is Istanbul, not Constantinople. I know this is a tired joke, sorry. Istanbul is, I don't know what it is, guys. I just love it. It's like this game that I don't know if it just clicks in my brain. I've just figured it out. I don't think and not to brag here, I don't think I've ever lost Istanbul, and I've played it probably over 10 times. It's by Pegasus Spiele, and it's designed by Rudiger Dorn. And in Istanbul, it doesn't do a good job here showing you on the back, but kind of like Five Tribes, you've got this modular board with these different tiles, and you're laying out this map of tiles onto the table. And I've got both expansions in here, the Boca and Makshish or Sashish, I forgot the name of it, and the Letters and Seals. And so when you throw both in, you get this Grand Bazaar variant, which is the even bigger map and kind of like Five Tribes 2, order of operation and what you lay out, movement restrictions, distance restrictions, things like that. So that does permit it to come to the table sometimes because I never envision myself playing it without those expansions, but we always throw them all in. Once we get the board set up, you have this puzzle in front of you. And the board is set, the paths are set. It's now up to you to figure out what is the most efficient way to get 6 gems. And when you're playing with everything, it's 6 gems. That's the victory condition. And so these gems are gathered in a variety of ways. You can just get money through different means and just buy the gems outright from a gem dealer. You can buy the gems from like the Sultan's Palace or another gem dealer by getting different color resources. And your resources aren't tracked through actual physical components other than coins. Your resources are tracked on this wheelbarrow board that you have that you can get extensions for, and you basically have red, green, yellow, and blue resources, and blue is the hardest to get. But you can trade those in to get the gems. With the expansions, you can trade in, letters and seals and things like that to get expansion. You can trade in coffee to get gems. You can trade in coffee to get gems. You can, even in the base game, you can get these different abilities from these different temples, or I forget what they're called, but they basically, 1, give you a special power. 2, if you get both pairs, you get gems that way. There's just a ton of different ways to go about doing this. And it's this unique mechanism too of, almost like Mancala, you have this stack of units. You've got your main merchant and all your assistants. And you drop off, you can move up to, I think it's 1 or 2 spaces, then you have to drop someone off or pick someone up. Or you have to pass your turn if you don't do either of those. So you are always looking at what is the most efficient way so I don't have to go back to the fountain and call my assistants back to me. Because other than picking them back up and putting them in your stack, if you ever lose all your workers and you don't have a special power, you have to go to the fountain and call them all back to you. And that's kind of a wasted turn when you think about it, because while you're doing that, other people are moving forward and you're just trying to basically get your stuff back so you can keep moving forward. So what I try to do to be most effective and win the game is skip that entirely. Never be in a situation where I have to go to the fountain. And that's just like the challenge of the game. How do I move around? I was going to go here. Sally's there. Now I have to pay her if I go there. I don't have any coins. I don't have any lira. It's what it's called. I need to move over here instead. I'll do that first, and then I'll come back around and pick up the guy. Then I'll go over there where Sally was, because she's going to move out. And then I'll take that action, and I'll have to pay her. And then I'll have the extra money that I need to buy that wheelbarrow extension. Then I'll go over here, and I'll expand on these resources, and I'll trade them in for a gem. And then after that, I'm going to go gamble. I'll say the number 7 because that's the most common number you'll see in a 2-die roll. If I beat it, I get the 7 coins. If I don't only get 2, I'm probably going to beat it. They're just always thinking about the most efficient way. And I know that just spit out a bunch of different game scenarios, but that's the way your mind has to work when you play this game. And I think that's just the way my mind is wired. So I just love it. I know it's kind of, I've heard anyways that Yokohama is a different, more, I guess, heavier version of Istanbul. Not the same designer, different, totally published by Tasty Mistral Games. I haven't tried that one yet. I really want to, but I don't know. I think I'm just happy with this one. And the theme of the other one doesn't seem as fun as this one is. Not that it's super thematic, but the color's cool, the gems are cool. The other one's just kind of, I don't know, kind of boring looking, to be honest. So, or in my opinion anyways. But this is an older game, 2015. Won the Kinderspiel in 2014 for good reason. It is an amazing pick up and deliver game. If you like puzzles, if you like, being the most efficient, if you like, that Mancala-y almost dropping off your workers kind of thing, this is an amazing, amazing, amazing game. It doesn't get as much love as I think it does. I know it's on some people's lists, but it's never that high, and I don't understand why. I think this game does, it's intense because you've got the race to the gems, and that's what it is too. It's ultimately a race. There is no in-game who has the most points. There's some tiebreakers in Lyra maybe, but I mean, whoever gets to the gems first is the winner. And at the end of the game, it can be a difference of 1 turn that decides the winner. You're 1 turn behind because you went to the fountain and I didn't. Or I got in your way maybe, or you got in my way. I couldn't pay the Lyra to take the action, so I had to do something else to buy my time. Didn't take it, and that's all it took for you to come out and get the gem 1 turn before me. So it's awesome. I absolutely love Istanbul. It is my number 2 game of all time. Definitely check it out. Super, I don't want to say underrated because it won Kinderspiel des Jahres, which is a big deal. But again, Cult of the New thing, you kind of forget about it. It's an older game now, going on 7 years old, 6 years old. But yeah, it's amazing. So that is my number 2, Istanbul, Pegasus, Spiele, and AEG. All right, so here we are at number 1. And I just want to say before we get to number 1, I appreciate everybody watching and watching the previous 3 videos. Again, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll mention that at the end, but I just want to take the time now. Your support really helps, and I hope you enjoy the passion that I'm exhibiting here and demonstrating with these explanations of the games, because I really do. I really love playing these games. I really love the board game hobby, and these games are the reason why. So without any more of that, let's get into number 1. And number 1, I don't own. Insert mind blown, Futurama robot exploding, whatever you want meme here. I don't own my number 1 game. I know it's a shame. I'm very close to getting it. Maybe. I'm just debating. But my number 1 game is another game my brother-in-law owns, and that is Lords of Hellas. Lords of Hellas is everything you want in a game. It has interaction. It has multiple paths to victory, not just, oh yeah, there's multiple ways to get points. No, there are 4 distinct in-game winning conditions. One way you can win is by hunting monsters. You've got these crazy, awesome techno punk Greek gods in this game. It's an amazing theme, or amazing world building they did. That's just crazy. But one of the ways you can win, you have your hero. Let's say you have Heracles, and it looks awesome. And he can just go out, hunt these monsters like Chimera, a Cyclops, a Minotaur, whatever. He hunts and defeats 3 monsters. You win the game in the story. That's one way. Now, in addition to that, you have your own units, hoplites, that are on the board. And you can win the game just pure area control. If you control 2 full regions, and these regions are broken up into colors, and then within those colors are like almost like counties, different sections within the region. If you control 2 full regions, you win the game that way. And there's 4 different color regions, maybe even 5. It's like green, yellow, gray, and blue, and red. No, maybe there's 5. So you control 2 of them, you win. You can also control temples. On those different regions, there are temples within each region, and these temples have to be built. But once you control, I think 5 of them, and there's 8 total, you control 5, you win the game outright. And then lastly, you can win by, oh my goodness, what is the last one? I don't know. But there's another way that you can win, and it is amazing. Oh my goodness, the monuments. Okay, so the monuments you are constructing throughout the game, and this kind of resets the board because every turn you're taking an action, and you can move your units, you can go on a quest, you can do all kinds of different things. Once you take those actions, you can't take them again, they're exhausted. So to reset, either you or your opponent has to build a monument. And when they build a monument, they literally add on a piece of this huge miniature that's probably like this tall, and it gives more power or more stronger powers to priests that you send out to those different temples to worship. But also, they help to end the game because as soon as one is fully built, and I think it's like 4 or 5 sections, once it's fully built, whoever controls that area at the end of 3 rounds is the winner. So not only can you go for the temples, not only can you go for the monsters, not only can you try to control the regions, you can speed the game up, build that temple, and just bring all of your army there and just hold on tight. Dig in like an Alabama tick and hope that you hold on to it for the 3 rounds that you need. And you don't have to have it 3 consecutive rounds. Someone could have it for 2 rounds. You sweep in, knock them out, and then get that the last round, and you win the game outright. It is amazing. Lords of Hellas is my favorite game of all time as of May 4th of 2021. It's just got it all. Like I said, it's got 4 paths to victory. It's got combat that's really cool. You kind of like Blood Rage. You've got your units, which have a certain amount of strength, and you can play cards. And these cards will have you deal casualties to yourself for a special power that you might have. Now your hoplites count for 2 strength instead of 1. You can cancel cards and then have to play new cards. You've got the monster hunting aspect of it with your hero. Your heroes have special abilities that can help them in combat maybe, or help them do quests faster, or give them special movement. There's different actions you can take, like usurping. If your hero's in an area, you have this usurp token of a matching color. You can completely surround a group of units, enemy units, usurp them from that area so that they have to move to an adjacent friendly area. And if there are no friendly areas, they are just wiped off the board entirely. And that's devastating, but devastatingly cool. And I just love Lords of Hellas. And that's all base game stuff. In the expansions, there is Odysseus, like a promo. There is more monuments with different powers. There is an expansion board. There are different ways to play with Kronos and Atlas and more heroes and more quests. There is so much to this game. And that's why I don't own it, because my brother-in-law got the Kickstarter. That's who I played it through. He has the Warlord boxes, all of it. And I'm glad he does, because it is kind of expensive, but you get what you pay for. It's amazing production, amazing units. They're sun-drop washed units too, so even the hoplites have this nice paint wash to them. It's just awesome. So Lords of Hellas is my #1 game. It's a dudes on a map, action selection type game with multiple paths to victory. Very much a Mare Nostrum Empires, like, but better. That's why they're both on my top 10. I love that mechanism of different distinct ways to win immediately that you always have to be on the lookout for. And it does it very, very well, and it's a beautiful production. So there you go. That is my top 40 through 1. This list was top 10 through 1. Again, if you haven't already, check out 40 through 20 and then 20 through 11. And yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think. Let me know what your top 10 through 1 are. If there's something I missed that you're like, how can that not be on your list? That's anathema, let me know. What's on your list? What did I miss? I've played a lot of these games, guys. I played Gloomhaven. I sold it. I know it's #1. It's just kind of the same thing over and over again. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I've played a lot of the games, Gaia Project, Terraforming Mars, Wingspan. Pretty much almost every game on the top 100 on BGG I've probably played, and if it's not on my list, it's for a reason. So You know, not to say they're bad games. I do like most of those, but these are my personal favorites. So let me know what yours are. Again, if there's something I missed, let me know that as well. If you enjoyed it, consider hitting that like button. Consider subscribing for more content like this. Let me know what you'd like to see in the future. You know, more board game reviews maybe, or if there's other top X lists that you like to hear about or my opinions on, be sure to let me know that. And that's it for this one. So again, I really appreciate your support. Thank you. Have a good one and take care.